morning, everyone. Selamat pagi, tuan-tuan dan puan-puan. 大家早上好. Thank you very much for joining us for one of our KW Malaysia regional trainings today. And today we have a treat for you. But before we go on, as we are going to kind of hang on for a couple of more minutes as more people are logging into Workplace and also to our Zoom call here today, quickly type on the chat box, what is that one expectation that you have from today's session today? Please type it on the chat box right now. What is that one expectation that you have for today's session this morning? Okay, just type it on the chat box right now. Anyone? Want to hear the life story is awesome. What else? What is your expectation that you have for this morning? Tips for motivation, going through tough times, something inspiring. Okay, what else? How to survive through this pandemic. Awesome. How to start from zero. All right. What else? What is that one expectation that you have from today's session? Right. Motivation. Awesome. Good to hear that, Ganesh. What else? Anyone else? Okay, cool. I'm not going to take too much time because I think today we have a treat. Live from Utah, all the way from Utah. We have got this very successful person. He's an amazing individual and a human being. I had the privilege to have to be in a hall when in family reunion in Dallas, when I heard Mo Anderson, our vice president, interviewed Craig, and as he shared his stories, as he shared his journey, it was a very moving moment. But he's also a very fun guy. He's a very amazing and awesome guy. I don't want to take more time, but I'm going to pass the time to Craig right now, where he's going to kind of do his thing and share with us his life journey and his story and whatever he feels that is necessary that he wants to share with all of us today. So I'm going to pass the time now to Craig. Craig, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Isn't this cool? Great. I can talk without moving my mouth. I'm just kidding. We'll be real. Hi, guys. Okay. What do you think of my clone? I brought a friend. We can do that, right? Because it's Zoom.
Yes, we could.
It's, you know, ask for help. Sometimes you ask yourself. So anyway, hi, everyone. I'm excited to be with you today. I'm very, very excited because that was a good one. Wait till you see what I do for an encore. Stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss this. I've had a wonderful opportunity to be where I am because at one point in my life, I wasn't where I am. And back at family reunion, the wonderful story Jonathan was talking about, I'm going to share a little bit about that with you today. And by the way, I've had an opportunity to meet with your region and a lot of the great people here. You have one of the absolute best regions in KW. Number one, it's because they're here to support you. And it's not that they just care about you here, they care about you right here. And this is right here where it all makes the difference. So for me, I was on stage talking about a time that our market was going through we can call it a buyer's market. Some people, if you've studied the US economy, we called it the Great Recession. Now, when we were in the Great Recession, we didn't know we were in the Great Recession. We just knew that things were a little bit different. And to walk you through what that was like, you would go ahead and you'd find a buyer. And I was a buyer specialist. I loved working with buyers. Anyone like that? You love buyers? A little bit? Anyway, so you went ahead and you'd do the work, meaning I would go out, find their dream home. We would negotiate it. We would go through inspections. We would go through appraisal. We would go through everything they went through. We went through financing. We got all the way there to the closing table. And more than once, I was sitting there at the closing table. We were waiting, and they would say things like, we couldn't get a hold of the lender. You know, the bank went ahead and had a hard time confirming, or they're not picking up their phone. And unfortunately, what would happen sometimes is you'd do all the work, you'd get to the closing table, and the bank wouldn't be around to finance the loan. And so here you are, stuck with someone who was just buying their dream home, and that dream got taken from them. So with that, I found myself in a situation where, believe it or not, I worked as hard as I could. I had no money. And so I think everyone has multiple defining moments in their life that make them successful or that make them maybe not what they want to be. One of mine was one night I was driving home and it was late. It was dark. It was cold. And in my car, it was the little gas thing. My gas light had been on. And I was going down a hill. And eventually, what happens to all cars when they run out of gas is they stop working. I got out. It's close to 11 o'clock at night. I pushed my car to the side of the road. And I say, well, here I am. And I'm having a hard time because that day I had a closing not happen. My cell phone, because we need those to be in this industry, you know, they shut those off when you don't pay for them. And I just went, this is it, I'm done. Like, what else do I do? So I'm going to tell you, it was a very emotional moment. I sat in my car and I was contemplating everything. Am I doing the right thing? Am I with the right company? Did I pick the right profession? And as the world's slowly imploding around me in the Great Recession, I had family members like my mom. I love my mom. She's a great woman. But watching a family member go through a hard time is not easy for anybody. And she says, wake up and go get a real job. Go get a consistent paycheck. Don't do this commission stuff. Get out of real estate and go back to, I had my dad and my stepdad both came from the construction industry. Go back to construction. Well, I don't know if you know this looking at me, but I'm not a very big guy. So that is playing in my head as I'm sitting there in my car with no gas. And some advice a KW agent gave me was always have a little bit of change in your office. So if a client comes in, and this is the early days, we had a vending machine. We didn't have anywhere for cold drinks, but I could offer them a beverage. So I looked at, and you guys are gonna have to help me. I went to public school, so my math when it comes to conversion, kilometers and miles isn't very good, but I walked 3.1 miles to my office in the freezing cold. Like I said, I was headed downhill. It was uphill in the middle of the night to go pull change out of my desk drawer that thank goodness was there, to walk back to my car, to borrow a gas can, to put gas in my car, to go ahead, there you go, oh, yeah, it feels like a lot. To go ahead and walk back to my car, put gas in so I could start my car, where I went to my parents' house and I says, okay, I got to do something. And this is that defining moment where you say to yourself, do I give up or do I keep going? And I know because that was my biggest moment of giving up. And I know some of us, we give up on life. I know some of us, we get up on their dreams. But that was it. And if I was going to do this, I'm all in. And so I went ahead and growing up, I played guitar. I played guitar for a lot of years. I had a guitar that now I know is rare and worth quite a bit of money, that I went ahead and I took to a pawn shop and I said, okay, here you go. And I had enough money to go ahead and get my cell phone turned back on and put gas in my car. And I said, I've got to go ahead and work efficiently. What I figured out is if I eliminated my commute from where I was going and I stayed at the office, I could go ahead and make it work. But this might mean sleeping in my car. I could go ahead and walk to the gym because they had showers there. And I could walk to the grocery store because they had food there. And you guys, anyone eat ramen noodles? Is that a thing there? Ramen noodles? Because when I go to the Philippines and Thailand, they know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm like, yeah, let's get some ramen. So anyway, got myself some ramen noodles because those US were 12 cents each. And that's how I went ahead and I figured out I could structure my life. And I can remember having a top agent say, I better watch out. You're coming for my job. And I said, what do you mean? He says, I saw your car here last night, but when I left and I saw it first thing here before I got here, and I thought I was the earliest one into the office. Well, I didn't tell him it's because I'd been sleeping there and it was a little bit embarrassing. So I figured out how far I could move my car and still have enough gas that when it's time to meet a client, I could get there. And through that, it's wintertime. We have very, very cold winters here in Utah. And I had to figure out where am I going to sleep or at least stay warm. I wasn't about to give up on this idea of not just Keller Williams, or not just real estate, but Keller Williams, because it's Gary's message that kept me going. I had a Millionaire real estate agent book. I had a collection of CDs from his mastermind groups. And I just said, I'm just going to study this because this is all I have. And if Gary's going to go ahead, he's going to write this. I know this book's smarter than I am. if I can just figure out this, I've got it. I've got the secret code right here. I just have to do it. And it's always, let's see, we've got shift book, but I've got an MREA always close. I can tell you what pages have what, but it kind of forced me to go ahead and study it. Natalie, and I appreciate it, brought tears. Right now, I'm having one of those times where I don't want to sob like a 2-year-old girl, because some of you guys, that might remind you of your daughter or your granddaughter, but that's about to happen here. So anyway, I said, okay, we got to stay warm. I'm going to go work in a group home. And so I went to work with the mentally and physically disabled. And it's not a glamorous job, but it's inside and it doesn't pay much. But I had to go ahead and check adults to make sure they had dry diapers, because that's what you do. And if not, you have to clean them up. Some of them I had to make sure they were alive, and I had to do it every hour and I had to write a report. So I could sleep for 45 minutes, get up. I could do that in about 15. I could go back to sleep in 45 minutes. And for 18 months, that's how I lived. And it was one of the hardest times of my life that I'm the most grateful for. And it's because, and this is something I'm going to share with you that I've repeated to myself every time I have a challenging time. And it's that hard times make strong people. And every time something's hard times make strong people. And so I kept telling myself that. And one of the wonderful things that allowed me to do is, when you go ahead and you're having your own personal internal growth, you can't help but having other people have their personal internal growth. I went ahead and there was a guy I worked with, and I can't tell you names and everything, but I'm just going to call him right now Doug. We're just going to make up a name. We'll pretend his name's Doug. And I go to work, and Doug is the person in this group home that nobody wants to work with. He's always going ahead. People are getting thrown out of there. He's accusing them of molesting him. He's accusing people of fighting him. This is the guy that just no one wants to be around. And here I am. I'd have to go ahead and work with this. Well, we have a few challenging moments, but the big moment came when I caught him sneaking back in after he'd been out all night and stuffed his pillow and everything. And he was one of those ones, I have to check a diaper because he was self-sufficient, but I had to make sure that he was there. He was really good at stuffing his bed, had me and a lot of other people fooled. I caught him coming in through the window though. And he knew that if I went ahead and I could prove that, which back then we had the old school Palm Pilot that you click the camera on, shot awesome black and white videos. There was my proof. And he just went ahead and you're going to rat me out? We had a challenge and he had a little breakdown. I says, Doug, what are you doing here? Doug told me he moved to Utah from Texas. Family was in Texas. And he went to a party and someone had put something in his drink. And he told me, he says, ever since then, I suffered multiple heart attacks and multiple strokes. He said, I go from a self-sufficient adult to being considered property of the state, where I'm not in charge of my own life, my own choices. I have to be babysat like a child. And Doug kind of became my reason for going ahead and staying there. I had a conversation with Doug and we kind of had a real moment. I said, Doug, what do you want out of life? He said, I just want to be able to cook myself food. I want to be able to go ahead and show I can do my laundry. I want to show I can keep a job. So I no longer am property of the state and I can go home to my family in Texas. I worked there for about 6 months with Doug, getting to this point, followed by another 4 months of, okay, Doug, we're going to stay up late. We're going to cook. We're going to do laundry. I drove him to work every day. I was completely 100% responsible personally for his success. And I took that very, very personally and very, very serious because I knew if I could help him get what he wanted, and I didn't know how, I was going to get what I wanted. Because even though my times were tough, even though I had a hard time and sometimes I didn't eat, Doug was considered property of the state. He didn't have freedom. At least I could go ahead and get another job. Can you imagine if you had that taken away from you? So that was the moment that I went ahead working with him and said that this is kind of what my life's going to be about. And it's one thing to say that you were interested in helping people buy and sell real estate or live in their dream home. It's one thing to say it. It's something completely different when you mean it. What happens is people talk about mindset. I love the shift book because Gary talks about get real, get right mindset. More importantly, though, in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, he talks about your big why. To me, it's not mindset, it's heart set. What will you commit your life to? And you're literally, this is from Gary's, you're literally betting your life on what you're doing, because what your life is it's your time. I was betting my time, which is a portion of my life, on Doug going out, able to leave that situation he was in. When I left, the reason I left is because Doug left. He was able to go home with his family. We've stayed in touch a couple times. And the biggest gratification I've just gotten is he said, thanks, you changed my life. And I was very, very fortunate to be able to go through that and do that. And I don't know what you believe in. I don't know if what you believe in is for a higher power or something else. And I'm not here to testify and tell you that it's God or it's energy or what it is. That's for you to decide for your life. I'm just going to tell you that we know, and I'm completely convinced there's something bigger than us in this world. And there's some fundamental truths that matter. When you go ahead and you strip your life down to what is this all about, it comes down to what's your purpose. What's the reason you believe you were put here? And when you mean it, that's what's going to go ahead and get you through the market you're in. Hard times make strong people. And I love that you went ahead. I'm going to slaughter this. I can read Melissa in your name. I'm going to slaughter if I try to pronounce that, but I completely believe that. And I completely believe that if I want to go ahead and I want to do a great job, I'm going to go ahead and focus on my clients, and I'm going to sit in their seat, and I'm going to think from that position. So with Doug, I went ahead and I just put myself in his shoes. And for me, I'm an old-fashioned person. I've got a fantastic coaching friend I've had for many, many years. His name's Tony DeCello. He was on stage with Gary several times. He is probably the MAPS coach of MAPS coaches, and he has been a friend and a mentor for well over a decade now. But he taught me just to think on paper. And when I asked him the question, I said, how do you prepare for a coaching call? He says, I prepare to listen. And when I asked him, how do you go ahead and how do you come up with the questions you're going to ask? He says, I sit down and I write out, if I'm going through that situation, if I'm that person, where am I at? Tony taught me that many, many years ago. And I did it for Doug. I sat down and what am I thinking? What am I feeling? What are my goals? What has to happen? How do I get there? And you formulate a game plan. I did that for Doug because I cared about and loved that man. Wonderful friend, wonderful person. And I was put in his life for a reason. And it's kind of interesting because what happened is I was doing that for him. I started doing that for my clients. If I'm a buyer, what are my challenges? What are my fears? And it's easier to go ahead and not think of your general buyer population, but think of one specific buyer and how I can help them better than they've ever been helped in their entire life. How can I create the absolute best experience for them and mean that it's the best? And it's the most interesting thing because I think one of the greatest opportunities that we have to grow personally is to simply sit in the position of how do I go ahead and make sure that person has the best experience? How do I make sure I can provide it for them? And then how do I one step further do it 100 times over and over again? Because that's it. And one of my other favorite things is it's easier to do that because what's most personal is most universal. We all have the same fears for the most part. We all have the same desires for the most part. And when you start there, it's easy to go ahead and go bigger. We all want to take care of our family. We all want to be a provider. We all want to be useful. There's no one out there. It's like, yeah, I hope I'm not useful today. I mean, come on. So that was a big portion of it. And that's how I went ahead and started when I said, okay, we're coming out of this recession. I'd been playing at a different level than anybody else. So because I was forced to go ahead and be in this group home when Doug was doing cooking and things like that, I was reading Millionaire Real Estate Agent. When I was going ahead and working on him keeping a positive attitude, I was keeping a journal myself of every day writing down 10 things that I'm grateful for. And just doing those simple things right there made everything easier. I didn't go anywhere without Gary finally released the Shift book. I had that. I had Millionaire Real Estate Agent, and I had them about memorized. So here we are. We're coming out of the recession. We're not quite out yet. And the time is anyone right here practicing scripts and skills to get better at what you do? I was asking different people, how often do you role play and practice scripts and develop your skills? And most agents were saying, I don't. And some of the good ones were saying, I do it 30 minutes a day. I set up 3 role play partners outside of my area, and I'll never forget, they're fantastic KW agents. But I had one because I had to be awake 5 a.m. That was my first call, and he was in a different time zone. The second that I went ahead and I stood in my office, 30 minutes, another role play. And then before I'd go on listing appointments or consultations, another 30 minutes. And this is over the phone. We didn't have the gift of Zoom. This is wonderful. So where the average agent out there didn't practice and role play, and the ones that are a little bit better, they did it 2.5 hours a week. I was doing it 90 minutes a day, 3 30-minute blocks. So they were practicing for 2.5 hours. I was practicing for 15 hours. At the end of a month, they might be 10 hours in. I'm 15 hours a week in. I could go ahead and get against anybody in a listing, and I could always win. Anytime we were talking about a buyer consult, I knew exactly what to say. And it's because, and this is important, amateurs practice to get it right, but professionals practice until they can't get it wrong. And if it's still an effort for you and you're doing a presentation, if it's still hard for you, it still requires prep work, you're still in that amateur level. When you're a professional, it just happens almost automatically because you've practiced it so many times before. And I don't know about you guys, but if I'm going to go see a brain surgeon, I don't want the amateur. I want the professional. I want the one that's done it 1,000 times. And the one thing that we do that we have to perform at a really high level, it's presentation, verbally, physically, everything down. So that right there is what I said I'm going to work on. And I had an awesome opportunity to meet Gary Keller right as I was coming out of this phase in my life. Of all places, the men's bathroom, because that's where you absolutely want to go ahead and run into someone important in the most awkward place you can. It's Gary Keller, though. I'm not going to miss an opportunity. It was the first chance I'm having to talk to him. So I asked him a question. I said, Gary, I've meaning to ask you, what's the best book you've ever read? And he says, Talent's Overrated by Jeff Colvin. Are you familiar with it? I said, absolutely, I am. Oh, and he said, well, I'll probably tell you the best book is the book I'm currently reading because I get into what I'm reading. And I remember how he phrased it, something like that. Talent's overrated. I says, okay, why talent's overrated? He says, because anything I commit 10,000 hours to, I can become one of the best in the world. So I said, it's interesting. So what are you committing 10,000 hours to right now? And Gary, if you've ever heard him play guitar at family reunion, that's what he was dedicating his 10,000 hours to right then. But he already had 10,000 hours before in writing because he wrote, the franchise system for KW. He wrote the systems, he wrote the models. Then he goes out and he interviews top agents. He writes the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. That man has over 10,000 hours in writing and teaching. And so I went ahead and said, I don't want to necessarily write and teach. I want to be great at communicating. And that's kind of where it went ahead, and everything did that. But the fundamentals, they were easy. We knew what to do, but people weren't willing to do them. And they weren't willing to take the option out. And so one of the things are with Doug, working with him, taking the option out, I wasn't going to let Doug slide on not writing his gratitude, 10 things every day. But if I'm not going to let him slide, I have to be just as committed as he was. And so we played different games. If he forgot, 10 push-ups for each one. It's 100 push-ups. And it went the same for me. And we made it fun. We had a great time. But that right there, that was my journey. And how far did I go? I'll tell you right now. Our team went ahead and we were number 1 in our market in 2017 for closed units at 203 homes sold. For our market, that's huge. That's huge. That's huge. We went ahead. I created Cyberbacker, which is a wonderful company. We've created, let's see, our number. I haven't seen today's number. I look at it every day, but I think today's number is about 956 jobs globally with a profit share program like Keller Williams, because I'm all about one of the things I'm committed to. My purpose, my why that's driving me right now is creating retirement. Because Gary, when he built profit share for us, was one of the most wonderful gifts he could have given us. He gave us an opportunity. He says, hey, you help me with my problem. And his problem is we don't have enough Keller Williams agents out there. And the only way to spread all the wonderful thing Gary has created is by bringing more people in. He went ahead and said, you help me with my problem, I'm going to give you a portion of the company's profits. That's what great people do. And he created the first ever retirement program. Because if you look at any other ones out there, and I don't know if it's like this in Malaysia, but in the US, people have tried to duplicate it. No one's been successful. And they're still trying. And it'll typically survive a seller's market, doesn't survive a buyer's market. Because buyer's market expose skill. Buyer's market is the best market to go ahead and test systems. If it works in a buyer's market, if it's built in the buyer's market, when the market shifts, because inevitably it will, it dominates in a seller's market. So that's right. The rest of the world, it's growth share. Yep, growth share. So small difference. By the way, growth share, it's a little bit better. Shh, it's a lot better. Anyway, we wish we had that. But Gary went back when he was going international and said, hey, I know how we make this even more awesome. So that's what they did. But anyway, it was a wonderful program, and that's what we created here. So it's all built on the same systems and models, though, when I created that company. 4 models. Number 1, have a database. Everyone has a database, correct? Yeah. The one thing I would be doing right now with my database is an equity evaluation. And if it's not an equity evaluation, it's something to get in front of your database and have a real estate conversation. Here in the US, what most top agents, because we got locked down with COVID pretty well, to where some of my clients in some of the biggest cities, they couldn't sell. So what they did was they said, okay, we're going to create a reason for people to get in front of us. And what they did was equity evaluations. That was an opportunity where they could say, okay, let's see where your home's equity's at. Is it up? Is it down? Is it sideways? Are you paying a fair amount of property tax, or are you paying too much? Are you paying the right interest rate, or are you paying too much? Should you take your equity and go buy something else? But they were creating opportunities to just meet with people on Zoom, exactly what we're doing right here, right now. And so what happened is I've got a few teams that they're in the state of Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania is a state that got locked down completely, to where they went ahead and stopped real estate transactions. Like nothing's happening. Some of those agents went ahead, one in particular, when he ended the year, he was not high. He's always been in the top, 100 in KW, top 50. He went ahead when everything got locked down. This is the strategy they implemented, just getting on Zoom with their clients, talk about anything. They ended the year at number 19 in all of KW. And that's for GCI. That's a pretty impressive year. It's because they did the right things. Their competition, they went ahead and they played the ostrich maneuver, which is where you bury your head in the sand. The bad news is, what does that expose? Kidding, that's a joke. Don't worry, I'm here all day. So anyway, while they waited for it to come back, he was out there getting his unfair share. And so for some people, it didn't come back. You're in a market right now where in a buyer's market, we would go ahead and say, what's your home buying strategy? What's your upgrade strategy? Let's see if there's a way we can upgrade your home and downgrade your payment. But it's just consistently getting in front of them. So there's a secret formula we use. Team leaders use this. You might want to write it down, team leaders in the US, but it's 210-40, and we added to it 120-480. 210-40, 120-480. What that is I'm going to have 2 appointments a day on Zoom or face-to-face where we're going to have a real estate conversation. 2 a day, 10 a week, 40 a month, 120 a quarter, 480 a year. Because at that 480 a year, if you have 480 Zoom one-on-ones talking about real estate, just like we're doing right now, if you're only 25% successful in turning those into a closing, you're 120 sales. That's it. And this is just back to Gary's build a database, feed it every day. And when things are locked down, people are looking for something to do. That was one of the best things. Another one, they went ahead and they were building investor databases. Gary wrote this other great book called The Millionaire Real Estate Investor. Do you guys all have copies of these?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So Millionaire Real Estate Investor, some of the greatest teams that I work with, what they did is they have an investment meeting every week. They would invite their clients, they would invite their team, they'd invite other teams. Sometimes people would get together and they would do these. And they would go ahead and say, here's how we invest in real estate. And you're going to want to check to make sure you're doing it legally and doing it right. Because sometimes when you pull money together, it gets a little tricky on the legal side. Make sure you're doing it properly. But that's what they would do. They would pull money and they would go buy real estate. And then also, when we were in our down economy, one of the things that grew us quite a bit was Canada came in and they were buying quite a bit. And so if you could go ahead and reach out to other economies and other areas, and they can legally own property, because in the US, you don't have to be an American to own property. We could go ahead and we could find people that were experiencing a rapid boom economy and get them to invest in ours. We could sell them real estate. So little things like that. But the four models still apply. And if you're not familiar with them, it's the economic model, lead generation model, budget model, organizational model. Those four of those. And if you have a copy of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, one of my favorite exercises, if you go to page 219, they've got the 16, yes, Millionaire Real Estate Agent, MREA. Page, is it 219? You guys have it? I've got probably one of the really old ones. It's got 16 issues between earning and netting $1 million. Is that there? 219?
219 is the issues between earning $1 million. That's correct. That's a chart there, right?
Perfect,
Yeah.
perfect. So I coached a guy in Canada. He's more or less retired right now, but I coached him for a little over 3 years. And it was a very simple coaching. We just said, let's start with on here, these 16 issues. And after we have each one of these knocked out, we're going to go ahead and we're just going to see where we're at. He's making over 2 million, #1 in Canada. Doesn't work. In fact, they invited him to go ahead and speak at masterminds and family reunion. He said he wasn't interested. And he dominates Canada. And he says, oh, I'm not interested. He's a very, very humble guy. Built a great business. But that's it. Everything you need is right there. So page 219, I would look at that in MREA. And then page 109. That should be the 8 goal categories, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. Now, I know these are true in every market and every business. They might slightly vary. But as I was building my other little company, Cyberbacker, that's kind of more or less what we followed. We had our lead generation goal, which if I look at page 210, it said leads is the most important number you need to know. And I know people have different variations for what is a lead. We just operate off the, what am I going to invest time and money in? Because if I'm not going to invest time or money in something, it's not a lead. If I'm not going to meet with it, if I'm not going to follow up with it, if I'm not going to call it, but that's it right there. And typically those come out of your database. You with me? Because this is a lot I'm throwing at you at once. Yeah? Okay. Is anyone tuned out? Are you watching Malaysia's Got Talent? Is that on today? No? Am I getting buzzed? Yeah? No? We're doing good? Okay. I can't tell. Some of you guys have the webcam off. So still here? Perfect. Then we're going to keep going as long as you're still with me. So again, going back to this is what we did in our market, and it works in multiple businesses. The MREA wasn't just a great real estate book. It's a phenomenal business book. So starting with right now, your lead gen model, I think that one's probably the one that I would start with. And you guys have the shift, right? Okay, so Gary talks on page 55 of identifying your lead source zone. And if you guys ever want, you can shoot me an email, Craig@cyberbacker.com. I'll get back to you. But if you just take right now, where do you want your business to come from? And you're just going to do your projections. How much is going to come from your database? For a long time, I did classified advertising. You can do websites. And you just write down over 12 months how many leads you're projecting to get per source. And then you're going to write your percentage of lead to close rate. In other words, when I get a lead from the source, here's what percentage of the time it's going to go to closing. So for me personally, I know my database, people that know me, I'm going to have some of them that they're going to say, yeah, maybe buying real estate's not for me right now, or maybe selling isn't for me right now, or they're going to refer me someone. And I'm going to go over to that person's house and tell them that it smells like the 15 cats that they own, or dogs, take your pick. But sometimes it's just not worth what they want for it. But I know 40% of the time I can get it to a closing because they're saying they're normal. We want the same things, which is to go ahead and, us to go ahead and help them sell their home. And they do want to sell. but you're going to identify what's your lead to close rate. So Sphere and database, that's your number one. Number two, I love classified ads because, and this is just me sitting as the consumer, spend some thinking time. You're going to want to do this. I went ahead and said, if I were going to look for a house, what would I do? And that was it. For sell by owners, I like for sell by owners, and I like those guys because they're less educated and they want to sell. And I know with the internet, they're saying, oh, I'm pretty savvy. Well, let's see. And just coming up with a great system. For sell by owners, my favorite thing, and if you want, I'm happy to send this to you. We went ahead and we documented all the things that we do for sell by owner. That we came up with 151 things. If you guys want to shoot me an email, you're welcome to, Craig at cyberbacker.com. I can send this to you. I don't mind. But I went ahead and I said, okay, if you want to do the for sell by owner, here's the job. Here's the job of a real estate professional. And when you give it to them, you find out they don't want to do it. They want the money. They don't want to pay necessarily a realtor, but they also don't want to do the work. And when you show them the work, a lot of people say, okay, fine, I'll pay you. Correct? So, and then other things that would get me internet squeeze pages, meaning where I'm going to go sign up for free information or a free report. But little things like that, that's what makes the difference. That's what a lot of people did. And then I'd be growing my database as big as I could, as quick as I could, while you're in this market. When it's in a seller's market, everyone's successful in a seller's market. It doesn't take skill. In a buyer's market, it takes skill and it takes a lot more value. Yes, free report to buyers, buyer and owners, absolutely. For a buyer, remember, people will go ahead and do more to avoid pain than gain pleasure. So little things like how to keep from buying the wrong home, top 10 signs that this home might not be for you, home shopping sheet, which is just simply, here's everything that's available. One of my coaching clients for a long time offered a free free home buying kit. And what was it? It's a questionnaire. You can pick it up. It's got a clipboard. It's got a tape measure. And it's got basically just a few inexpensive items to go ahead and buy a home. And the key is it's low cost, high perceived value. So, but that's a lot of it. Guys, I can ramble forever on just kind of my story or anything. My story right now, my purpose right now is, and I'll tell you, it's creating retirement for other places because, I'm blessed. I was given a lot of wonderful things just to be born where I was, to be put through the hard times I was. And now I want to go ahead and I just want to do some good in the world. And one of the things that Diana Kokoska, she's retired now, but if you look at any of the old Bold materials or stuff like that, she went ahead and originally wrote Bold. She taught me, she says, Craig, you can't give what you don't have. And so goal is to go ahead and help create retirement globally. And you still have right now, 49% of the population is not even online. And right now there's not retirement all over the world. So that's kind of my goal. With Cyberbacker, we profit shared in our third, we're just getting ready to start. We started in 2018 as a brand new company. So 2 years down, we just turned 3 years old. So we profit shared 226,644 US, which is kind of cool, back to our associates. And we do it like KW does it, like their profit share, not their growth share. Because I asked Gary, how'd you come up with this whole profit share? And then through my office wall right here, we have the CEO of MAPS Business Coaching, which is a coaching company Gary owns for people that are not in real estate. And I pick his brain all the time. So anyway, he said profit share. I went, cool. Growth share is a little bit better though, because profit, it can be a varied number. So anyway, but we built it out and that's what I chase. We go ahead and we give 48% of our profit back to our associates. So that's all I got, but I can go ahead and keep going for another 5 or 6 hours, but I prefer to hear what you guys have, because if there's something you want to know, if there's something you want to just talk out, I want to hear it.
Hey, Craig, thank you for sharing. Guys, on the chat box, please do post your questions or your aha so that we are aware of some of the stuff that you want to clarify later with Craig. But Craig, I got a couple of follow-up questions for you right now. And one of the first questions I have is going back to the beginning of your story and all that. I would imagine you were going through a lot of turmoil, a lot of pain, a lot of difficulties, and you know, it's not easy to measure your gas tank every millimeter, every moment that you have to use the car and all those kind of stuff. What was that one thing that keep you going? What was that one thing that even though you go through that tough time, and I know there are certain days that it's probably not the best days, right? How do you get out of it, and how do you keep moving forward?
So every day you're going to have a different reason. And so if you haven't made a reason for a lot of different reasons that you're here doing what you're doing, or just being grateful to be alive, I would start there. I would love to tell you that every time I looked at something that said, it's because I have a goal to one day do this. I mean, I was a younger guy. I was single. There was not a family I was doing it for. It was just me. But as soon as I saw someone else has it worse, and on my worst day, I should still be grateful for what I have. That's it. And then also, you look at the four thieves of productivity and the one thing. And one of the biggest thieves of success is your environment doesn't support your goals. I'm going to tell you what, Doug was the environment for a while, and my Keller Williams office was the environment. That no matter what was going on in my life, I had positive people that I could go be around. And it was, Jonathan, truthfully, I would almost be embarrassed to bring a bad day around those wonderful people. And so even though I'd have a hard time, no one knew what I was going through. No one knew I was living in my car. I wasn't going to tell them, you know, because, you know, if I smelled a little bad that day or whatever, they just still were great. But, you know, it's kind of like in the wild, you know, dogs that are injured will fake like they're not because they don't want to get left behind in the pack. And so I would go ahead and just fake it because I love being around those people, and they lifted me up. I mean, they live the KW culture. They live it. So,
Right. So basically, get into an environment that it's so positive, that is driving you forward, that is not get in touch with people who are not like where you are right now, so that they can lift you up. Being in the company of right people, right? There you go. Cool. Yeah, there's a question on the chat box here right now by Cashfee. Has real estate always been a passion for you? Is it still now? And how is that a passion for you?
real estate's a passion for me because when I got into this, and kind of what got me into this, because I see Chris jumping ahead has a question, what got you in? I went ahead and just like everybody else was looking for, you know, the shortcut to wealth and easy money. And so I saw we have infomercials. I don't know if you guys have those. They try to sell you. Well, I went ahead and signed up and got this real estate investor thing. And I listened to it. I studied this course pretty intently. And so I'm like, okay, I want to invest in real estate. And I started calling real estate agents, telling them what I wanted to do. And they were talking like I was an idiot. And so I said, well, fine, forget all you. I'm going to go ahead and figure out this whole real estate investing thing. I'll go get my real estate license. And this is bad. I'm going to go ahead and just admit to you the true embarrassing story because I'm okay with it. I went ahead and I'm going through real estate school to get my license. I've talked to a couple of different real estate offices, and someone comes to me and says, well, I want to buy a house. Can you help me with that? I said, let me check. Like, yes, I didn't know my license went ahead and would allow people buy and sell homes. I just wanted to learn how to invest, you know? And I was the young kid that was just taking a shortcut. I didn't know there was another plan for me, but that's where it started. And, you know, what gives me joy and what gives me passion, and the reason we still do it is probably the same reason that you guys do it. When you give someone the keys to their dream home. I mean, selling is fun. It's fun to list and sell a home. I enjoy it. But that whole simple thing of giving someone the keys to their dream home, being a part of that excitement, being a part of one of the biggest decisions they're going to make in their life, that's awesome. And I don't think there's very many jobs, because I certainly don't want to be there to help people get married. I'm worried I'd say the wrong thing. I say a lot of dumb things as it is. Can you imagine two people standing at the altar? And I don't want to be a doctor delivering their child. So I guess it's going to have to be our house, you know? I don't know any other big, you know, moments I could be there for.
Yeah. Okay, cool. You talk a lot about simplicity of focusing on the right things for that moment, right? Doing one thing at a time. And that's the concept that Gary wrote in the book, The One Thing. Can you just talk a little bit more about the simplicity of, you know, I love it when you shared about these, the formula that you just gave us, the 2 10 40 124 80, right? It's a very simple formula, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes simple becomes complicated when we feel that it's difficult to do or something that doesn't make sense to certain people yet. How do you make sense for yourself to say that, hey, this is the simple thing that I need to get doing right now? Because if I don't do this, everything else doesn't matter anymore.
Well, I'm going to keep stealing from Gary, just tell you the truth. Page 26 of MREA, I think it's 26. He talks about Charles Mingus says, anyone can take something simple and make it complicated. But genius, true genius, is being able to take something complicated and break it down to very, very, very simple. And so it's that right there. And then it's also having a coach and a partner and several partners that I can go ahead and just real quickly jump into. Here's what I'm working on. Because someone's got to hold you accountable, and they've got to be that one track mind of keep bringing you back to it. Because every day, I don't know about you, but I get distracted easily. I mean, I'll jump on Facebook and there's my new lead generation idea, and I'm ready to go invest a lot of time and money in it. And I have to have the voice of reason, who's going ahead and saying, hold on. How's that going to work? And why don't we finish this before we do that? So do you guys want to see the voice of reason, what that looks like for me? Sure. I have the voice of reason. I totally cheat. So I'm going to introduce you guys because she didn't know I was going to do this, and she's going to get embarrassed. But I have, like, right now, literally my assistant, she's right there. And so I just have a professional babysitter who's with me all the time on Zoom and keeps me on goal. And this is Jen. But if I tell you that I'm going to go ahead and do something, then in my mind, I've made you a promise, and I don't fall short on my promises. And so always in my real estate career, I've had to have a promise keeper, and I've had to have someone that's going to go ahead and keep me on track. And here's the thing. This is my own little hack. I tie their job to my success in that one thing, because they won't let me escape. If they know if I don't accomplish it, their job or their income's at risk, there's no problem. And Jen's one thing is keeping me on my schedule. So
awesome. I like that.
And it works for kids, works for adults too. Who would have thought, you know? She even tells me, hey, time to go eat. Cool.
I like that. Now, you talk a lot about in the buyer's market versus the seller's market. In the buyer's market, it's really about skill. And in the seller's market, it happens naturally, right? So in the buyer's market, would you agree that it is the unnatural things that has to happen in order for you to drive progress and success? So how can we then, what are some of the skills that we need to focus on right now to be set apart from those who refuse to change their mindset? They're still thinking that the seller's market is going to come back, that kind of agents right now. So what's your advice for us on that?
Start with a presentation. And start with such a good presentation that it doesn't feel like a sales presentation. It's a fact-based presentation. You have facts, you have where you got that information from. That's going to be part of it. And one of my favorite trainings is called Art and Science. It's Art and Science of Coaching, but that's it. Because art, this is what kind of happens here in your heart. And that's that creativity. It's the emotional side of real estate. And then there's the science, the logic, the numbers, things like that. So in your presentation, every great presentation should incorporate both. You have numbers, you have statistics, you have quantifiables. And then you should also have that emotion. What are your dreams? What are your hopes? What are your desires? What do you want? And you have to, I mean, when you're dealing with a buyer or seller, you have to go ahead and help lift them up to their greatest possibility. Where could you live if you wanted to? Then asking big questions like, what is your dream home? Like right now, if I were standing in it, if someone called me, how would I know it's your dream home? And you want to get them just so crystal clear on that they kind of know what they're looking for. But then also you've got to strip it down and know what they'll sacrifice. Because if I want something that's got a big kitchen, but it has to have 3 bedrooms, then you just ask them, okay, so if I find something that it's got 3 bedrooms and a small kitchen, should I even tell you about it? But the better the presentation, if you do the hard work up front, it's easier the rest of the way. If you do the easy work up front, where you have a weak presentation, you don't practice, or you don't even do a presentation, it's going to be harder throughout the transaction, because conflict arises when expectations fail to be set or failed to be met. If we met in the beginning, I did a great presentation, you know the process. It's like, I'm going to tell you what, When people know the plan, they're okay with a lot of crazy things. See, if I have a brain surgeon who's going to sit me down and say, okay, you're going to come in, we're going to go ahead and take you back, measure your vitals. The anesthesiologist is going to put you under. I'm going to cut your head open. I'm going to remove this. I'm going to sew you back up. You're going to go ahead and you're going to go to post-op. We know the plan. And I'm sure they go into more detail than that. But if someone shows up at my office saying, okay, time for brain surgery, let's go, I'm going to be a little nervous about should they be cutting my head open or not, because professionals communicate what's going to happen next and what you can plan on. Then amateurs do not.
Right. And amateurs are just door openers, right? They just open the house and just show the house, and they expect someone to buy by just showing.
It's because of value. And if you look at it, this is the real hard thing. They have a hard time asking the right questions, and they have a hard time hearing no. Because here, someone's going to be saying no. Either you're going to say no to people that want you to open the door for them, or they're going to tell you no, because that's not how they want to work. But professionals respect their time, because they're back to this, what are you betting your life on? If your life's worth something, then you've got to treat your time like it's as valuable as it can possibly be for you. And by the way, there's some people, yeah, they'll go open the door, but you're not going to respect the doormat. You respect the person that's the professional, and they have a way of operating.
Awesome. I like that. I love that. And some of the ways for us to kind of work on this is that role play. Can you just share a little bit of how does that pan out for you? Because role play is something very new to us here. We're trying to get into that hang of role playing from the market center level leadership and the market center trainings for the agents. Can you share with us what does that role play look like for you for that 30 minutes that you go through, so that we all kind of have an image of that?
So you've got a couple different role plays you do. One of them is appointment setting. And if the way you do your appointment setting is over the phone, primarily, that's what you practice. If I were setting a lot of my appointments through text or Facebook, I would do it that exact way. And someone's pretending to be the client, someone's pretending to be the real estate professional, and both of you know the desired outcome. And you get to where you can handle any objection out there. So no matter what comes at you, you already know how to handle it. So you're thinking, gosh, I'm excited that you gave me that objection because I know exactly what to say.
Yeah.
And then in presentation, it's actually sitting down, whether it's Zoom or person, depending on, where things are with what you can do based on the health situation. And someone's the agent, someone's the client. Then you say, here's the outcome. Number one, I want you to hire me as an agent. Number two, I want you to be excited at the process. And number three, I want you to feel value. And so if we go ahead and out of this role play, if you were really the client, you should get that. And here's the other thing. When you're the client and you're sitting, you're going, okay, here's what's really good that I need to add to my presentation. And here's what's really bad that I should probably never say. One of my things that I discovered about myself, and you guys can tell right now, is I talk a lot with my hands. I look like in a buyer presentation, like I'm trying to land an airplane. I have to literally go sit on my hands. I mean, I didn't know I was Italian. My grandma told me I was a 16th Sicilian. I went, oh, that explains a lot.
Well, your hand didn't move that much, or the camera angle couldn't show that part. So you're okay today. Yeah, you're okay today.
Yep. Sitting down, standing up. But if I'm back here, it's completely with my hands all the time. We're landing an airplane. Come on.
Okay, is there any questions on the chat box or virtual support? Did I miss out any questions here? Right. Yeah, that's a good question here for Shah. In the US, exclusive rights to the appointment of the agent is a very common thing. In Malaysia, it's probably 1 out of 50 that you get exclusive. I'm just exaggerating the stats, but that's kind of the situation here. What are some of the advice that you would give to agents here right now in terms of how can we better secure exclusive rights for the agents?
Great question. And we do have that, but it's like 1 out of 1,000 that, okay, we're going to list with everybody right now. The question is right now, how will you know when you found the right agent? And what would that agent have to do so they would be the only agent you trusted to work with? And this is a series of just asking the right questions. And you look at doctors, I know we're talking a lot about that. But doctors go ahead and ask great questions before making a diagnosis, because without proper information, without asking the right questions, you're setting yourself up for malpractice. We don't call it malpractice in real estate. We just call it, I messed up and now I have to work harder. But it's always, and here's the thing, and this is kind of you're going to constantly be doing this in your business, but what's the unique value proposition you offer? What do they get by going ahead and being exclusive with you? And so you're going to constantly work on that, because for a long time, if it's a great value proposition, it's going to get copied. For a long time back in the 90s, one of the exclusive value propositions a lot of agents had was they had a cell phone. You could call them anytime, 24/7, while their competitors, they had to wait. You had to wait till they went back to their office, checked their messages, and called you back. And sometimes it wouldn't be until the next day before you heard back. But that was a value proposition. One of the value propositions right now that, like, we went ahead, we bought a moving truck, and that's a value proposition. And it's not because we're the first, it's because that's what top people do around here. So we have to offer it, because if we don't, they're going to go somewhere else. But I would be looking at, what do I have to offer? I mean, what would get you to be exclusive? And it would be something like, listen, I'm more than happy to do real estate one of two ways. Either number one, I'm going to spend a lot of time, alone, a lot of money marketing your home. Or I can spend less time and less money marketing your home, and you're welcome to market with other agents. So do you want a lot of, investment of time and money in your home, or do you want marginal? Because I'd rather have one agent who's going to give me 100% rather than you have a bunch of agents giving me 10%.
So list down the value proposition, and I think we have to get competitive on this, right? It's just not giving them a script and just trying to get it from them, but being very competitive in how we can offer that value to the clients.
Yeah. Well, what are the questions they need to be asked? That's it. And identifying before you go into a presentation, because sales, if I tell you something, that's selling. But if I ask you the question and you give me the answer, it's your answer, you're going to be totally bought into that.
That's right.
And just ask the question, what are the 5 things that have to happen that would cause you to want to sign with me and no one else?
Got it. Cool. A lot of people are asking about the home buyer's kit.
Yes.
Yes. Could you just kind of elaborate a little bit about it? What would that look like, and how would you advise us to do that? Or what's happening in your market about that right now?
Yes. So start with Tactic 9 in the shift book. If you're not implementing those basics in the 4 strategies, it's Tactic 9, overcoming buyer reluctance. There's 4 strategies in there. That's the one where I would start. Tactic 9 of the shift book. Implement the best buy list, trading up, narrowing the field. That's the first thing. Okay. Second, I don't think there's a Malaysia version of Millionaire Real Estate Investor, but if I go on kellerinc.com, I've got some of those free resources that I can download for Millionaire Real Estate Investor, like buy and hold worksheets, investment criterias. I might have some of those that I put in there. And then I would go ahead and get with any of my affiliates who have anything to do with me closing a real estate transaction and see what else they can offer. For a long time, we offered a relocation packet. And what I learned from the guy who did that is when someone's out of town, you just have to go to the hotel. They had a bunch of flyers there, get them all together, put them in an envelope with some other, information we got from the city. And that's what we did. We sent it to them. That was a relocation packet. But it's whatever you make it, that would be valuable to you. And I would do it for as inexpensive as possible. And if I really wanted to go like high level, I mean, our buyer packet right now, we do a VR kit, because here we do a lot of our homes in virtual reality, and they're shot with a camera that there's a dollhouse view, and you can put on a VR headset and you can look around. Well, we figured out we can order VR kits for less than $2. They put their phone inside of it. It's Google Cardboard with that. And they can look around as if they're in the home.
Wow. So a Matterport shot done on a VR kit that you provided for them, and they're looking at your listings that you have based on the kit that you provide. I love that. For $2, that's amazing. That's awesome. Right.
So cool. And then there's the question on social media. Nothing of value for social media. Nothing of value. No, I'm kidding. One of the things right now, because our biggest company in the US right now, one of the biggest ones is Amazon. And Amazon does this thing called Amazon Live, where they've got someone that they call an influencer who's live on Amazon and they're reviewing product. The best thing I can tell you about, 20 different things to do on social media, but the one that matters the most is just we have a little private page for people that are shopping for a home or people that might be interested. And we're going on through Zoom, streaming it. Like right now, you guys are streaming to Workplace. We stream it to our Facebook, just that group page, and we shop for homes and let them see us go through homes. Like, look at this one. Oh, that's a small bedroom. And it's just kind of like your morning show.
Got it.
So, but things like that works really well. Private groups, because if it's great, your competition's going to watch too and rip it off. And everything you create that's good, you have to keep it as yours and as KW. I share with my KW colleagues, but I'm not going to share with my competitors down the street. They don't get anything if I do anything. There's no profit share, there's no growth share. So for the other people, I kind of keep it a little hush hush. So.
Awesome. Right. Any more questions from the crowd here? Please put it in the chat box. Virtual support, is there any questions from Workplace, as I can't see Workplace right now? So basically, a home buyer's kit is something that you put in of value to help the buyer's journey in making that decision. So it could be a solicitor's quotation of how much that costs for legal fees. It could be a mortgage information. It could be lender's information. It could be home insurance. It could be all kinds of stuff in a package that you are ready to help them, right? It's coming from contribution, right? It's just a lot of work, right? It's a lot of work to get all this prepared. Great. Yeah, there you go.
It's starting with one thing and fully implementing it before you add anything else. And you just write out a step-by-step. And here's what we're going to do first. Here's second, here's third. And it's just creating lists of priorities. And you've got your Jen, like I've got my Jen over here, who's going to keep you committed to one before you go to two. That's it. Because this is right now, if we're building a super lane highway, we're going to build one road first before we expand to 2, 3, 4, 5 to, I saw one 8 roads wide. I went, you got to be kidding me. But that at one point was a 1-lane road.
Got it. Understand. Okay. You talk a lot about putting time into database and communicating with people and connecting with people. Let's just dive deep into that conversation a little bit. What sort of conversations, like we are in the lockdown right now, and when you were in the lockdown, what sort of conversations were you having with them? Or what sort of conversations your agents were having with the database based on the situation that you are in right now?
So we call them care calls. And care calls are just right now exactly that. You're coming from a place, just say, I care about you. Just want to make sure you're safe. Is there anything you need? And just letting them know that you're a resource for more than just real estate. You're a resource for anything. Because I don't know about there, but a lot of places, they go ahead and assume that we network like crazy. And realtors are very networked. We're very connected. And so if they think we're that, well, then let's just go ahead and be that. And so it's just a real quick, is there anything you need? And then also after that, is there anything you have to offer? That if someone needs something that I can call and connect you with. We've got some people, they say, well, we make our own masks. And if someone needs a mask, or they need a lot of masks, we can sell them pretty inexpensive. But if they just need one, they can have one, So, but those kind of calls right there. And then another fun thing to do, if you are going to do a little bit on social media, creating a private group with your database and asking them to help you come up with real estate marketing ideas. Not because they're going to be any good, but because people want your job. People want to go ahead and market homes. They want to talk about ways to be in real estate. I mean, our entire industry is made up of a lot of thought leaders and people who think big, but just little things like, what would you say about this home? But invite them to come be entertained, invite them to come play with you. So have Zoom meetings like this. We went ahead and we hired, is Malaysia Has Talent? Is that a thing there?
Sorry, what?
Malaysia's Got Talent. Is that a thing there?
Yeah. It was for a while, but not anymore, but yes.
I thought it was, but it was the closest tie-in I could find because we've got America's Got Talent. And I hired someone who was on there, who's pretty good. There's a writer and author, John Maxwell, that I was over at John Maxwell's house. He introduces me to this mentalist. I brought the mentalist on, and we did a Zoom thing where he was reading people's minds. We invited people, and that was like, you know, their families are gathered around the computer watching this magician, and they're just going, oh my gosh, read their minds. So, but little things like that. When there was a toilet paper shortage, because we had that in the US, where for some reason we thought toilet paper wasn't going to happen. One of the teams that I work with, they did toilet paper trivia. And on Zoom, you had to write A, B, or C on a piece of toilet paper and hold up what your answer was. But this is looking for ways to just keep them entertained, because everyone's having a hard time. So if you can make it a little bit better, if you can make it a little bit more fun, that's what matters. You know, service, it's you know, it's the care first and the sale second.
Right. Okay. Craig, we're coming to the end of the hour, and thank you so much for your time and your contribution. Guys, on the chat box, if you have learned something, please type in your ahas and express your gratitude to Craig right now. Craig, I'm going to go for some announcements, and I'll come back to you for some last thoughts, okay? So would you support, can I please have the announcements, please? Okay, guys, just to follow through in our trainings from the region to all agents. On Fridays, our Tech Fridays, we will be going through smart plans on KW Command. And I'll be doing it together with Roslan, who is actually probably one of our best KW Smart Plans users. So he will be sharing on how to use Smart Plans. It's an absolute not to miss session. So please sign up for that course and see you guys on that Friday. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the next week's, we are celebrating Chinese New Year on Friday. So next week is Chinese New Year week. And we're going to cut short our trainings up to Wednesdays in order for us to have time to celebrate Chinese New Year. I know it's a very different Chinese New Year this year, where we are not allowed to go out. We are staying at home for this. This is our first stay at home Chinese New Year, which is a weird thing to do, but I guess all of us will kind of learn to do this and pivot along the way. Next slide, please. Okay, so next week we'll be having our Power Mondays, and we're going to talk about how people can change, how are they changing in their businesses right now. So we are interviewing LV and also Elaine, who has done tremendous changes, especially in their application to technology for business. Next slide, please. And we'll be doing a lead gen session in Bahasa Melayu on Wednesday. That will be about the announcements for everyone for the future training sessions that we have. We are taking a break the week after Chinese New Year due to family reunion coming up, and there are a group of us will be attending family reunion. Because of the time difference, we are unable to facilitate any trainings from the regional level. But we will let you know once we come back from family reunion, and we will resume those training programs for you guys. Okay, Craig. There are a lot of chats right now. There are a lot of expressions of their gratitude to you, Craig. What are some of your last words and some of your last advice to us? I suspect this will not be our last time speaking, because I suspect that you will get a lot of emails from all our agents wanting to have more sessions with you. I'm assuming that's going to happen. So great. But what would be some of your last advice for us in this season?
Well, I went ahead and I typed in the chat, stay in touch. You guys are welcome to reach out to me. I reached out to, I met a guy in 2005, Tony DeCello, I keep talking about, that he's 78 years old right now. He was the coach that believed in me. He introduced me to Gary. He helped me be a coach. He taught me that, you know, people are far more valuable than money, and live well beneath your means. Right now, I don't know what's going on and where you're at in your life, but this right here is the time to be most excited about, because on your hardest day, it's just as hard for your competition. And when things change, and they always do, if you can survive these tough markets when your competition can't, you're going to be that further ahead. The market share you gain, you never give back. So that's it. So when the world opens back up, who knows? Maybe I'll make it to Malaysia. I hope to. Plan to. We'll see.
Yeah. It's just 5 movies and 3 meals, and you'll be here in Malaysia.
Deal.
Okay. Thank you very much, Craig. Thank you for taking time off your business to be with us. Thank you, guys. I hope you all have a great session today. This recording will be available on Workplace, and we will be posting out in our channels as well. So thank you so much, Craig. You have a great rest of the week, and talk to you later. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.